Compton, who's from the recycler, or Biobuu, in Tanzania. And Kigen is going to be sharing some insights with us into large-scale organic waste treatment, so the other end of the spectrum, and what their role is in city-level waste management. So let's give him a warm welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm going to do this because I feel like I'm constrained behind the podium. I think it's better if we can try and, hopefully you can hear me at the back, so I don't want to be behind the podium. But hi, good afternoon. My name is Kigen. I am one of the co-founders and the CEO for a couple of companies here in Dar es Salaam, and we're an organic waste recycling company. As the moderator was saying, we operate at the other end of the scale, and from the conversations that I've been hearing today, it's amazing what people have achieved at, the household level. My companies, we looked at the household level and we ran away in fear because we really didn't want to get involved in it, to separate, to aggregate, and all those things. So it's really impressive what people have achieved, and yeah, congratulations. All right, there we go. So before I start, this is a picture of the dump site in Dar es Salaam, Biobuu. So there's one dump and there's 8 million people. So this is what we're trying to fight, because I think it's next year in 2025, Biobuu is being closed and they're opening up another 4. So we're about to go from 1 of these to 4 of these. And this city is going from 8 to 10 million to 15 million people in the next 20 years. It's a problem that we really need to address. So this is why we're here, is we're trying to work at a higher level to try and stop as much volume of waste as possible going to the landfill. So just a quick background on what we are. So essentially we are an insect protein company and we do windrow composting. And having heard of all of you here today, I've never seen so many people know so much about compost in the same room in my entire life, and I've been doing this for 7 years. So this is quite incredible how much I've heard about compost today. So I'm not going to go down that road. But we also do insect protein, and so it's through these things that I want to talk about how we've actually, we're trying to create a viable business out of this, because this is quite niche, and as many people here have said today, it's very difficult to make money, and it's very difficult to cover costs. So where we are now is we've actually reached there. And I put up the SDGs there because, I think it's really important that we're in this together. And, number 17 there, my favorite. I've been trying to let my wife convince me to get number 17 tattooed on me, but she's refused to date. But I figure, we've only been married 15 years, so I've got time. So some background on us. So last year, we processed 6,500 tons of waste. And this year, we're on target to do about 18,000 tons. And this is across the sites that we have in Tanzania. The equivalent of this, now I've seen some interesting math on everybody's slides today, and I'm not sure how everybody else has done it, but our facilities are carbon credit registered. So we actually generate revenue from carbon credits, so we know how many credits we've generated, and we've gotten money for it. So last year we generated around 3,500 credits and we were paid for that. We also do the insect protein, but we don't just do insect protein, so we actually make a finished product. So last year we sold 300 tons of animal feed, so that was chicken, fish, floating feed for tilapia, and poultry feed. Now it's a complete feed, so we're talking about introducing some other things, and we have a production line. And 300 tons is nothing. Like it is, the biggest mill in Tanzania does that in 2 weeks. It took us 12 months to do that, but that's not important. What's important is that we actually managed to. We're creating more value out of the waste and being able to create more revenue. So this year, through a program with USAID, we're on target to train about 3,000 smallholder farmers across Tanzania. This is farmers in compost, not in just making compost, but using compost in our poultry feeds and our fish feeds. And what I'm really proud about is we've been profitable for the last 3 years. Now I say this, we've been around since 2015 and we've lost money. And I don't mean small amounts, we've lost a lot of money. But for the last 3 years, because of all of the revenue streams we've managed to aggregate and all of the waste we've managed to process, we're finally profitable, which is something I'm really proud about. So this is our main site. This is the site that's we've had for a couple of years now, and it's a pure composting site. We do insect protein there, but it's actually a site owned by a municipal government. So the Kinondoni Municipal, which is a municipal government within the region of Dar es Salaam, owns this site. This site was paid for by the city of Hamburg, which is the Dar es Salaam sister city, and they paid for it because of the carbon credits. So this site cost about $3 million to build. It's incredibly over-engineered. It was a lot of money, and which is why we're now building a second site, and we're doing it south of the city, and we're doing it for a lot less money, and this one we'll actually own. So this site, the capacity is about 70 tons a day, but yeah, capacity is one thing, actual production is another. So we do about 40 tons of waste a day at this site. So this is waste coming from municipal sites mostly. We do hotels and whatnot, but the bulk of the waste is coming from municipal markets. So there's fruit and vegetable markets all over town. We all know what they look like, and so we collect at those markets, and at the moment we're collecting for them for free. So we're working on changing that. But the motivation for them is literally they own the site, so they shouldn't pay for it. But yeah, that's something that I will touch on, but I'm not really a big fan of it. And it's quite big, so it's literally, it's a 15-acre site, it's a lot of concrete, which is why it's so expensive. It has expensive ventilators that they built that we never used. It's really overkill. But what we're doing is just simple windrow composting. Windrow, machine goes over it, we all know compost. I won't, sorry, okay, slow down. Okay. I'm too excited about this, and I also have been told this a million times, I've got to slow down. All right, I will slow down. So, windrow composting. We put it in a row, a machine goes down it, and it decomposes. But the site is very, very over-engineered. So we're building a new one, also facilitated by carbon credits. And the good thing about carbon credits is they're paid in advance. So the financing, and we're actually looking at schemes now for what everybody, a lot of people are talking about these smaller programs to see how you can generate revenue from those smaller programs with carbon credits. So can you do household collection, small composting, disaggregated, decentralized, and then get revenue from it? So that's what we're going to, but where we are now is that we're on a very big site processing around 40 tons of waste a day. We also do insect protein. So we breed in captivity, and we do insect protein because not all the waste can be eaten by the insects. The bulk of the waste goes to composting. So why we have that site is so that we can actually have access to the waste. So we get access to municipal sites very, very easily. So we get access into, without having to worry about, licensing and whatnot, without having to say that we're getting pested. We get into the site and we get access to that waste. We take the good waste, and that waste is fed to insects. So we don't just do insect protein, we do finished feeds. So we process that into a meal, we defat it, and we get a very high protein powder. That protein powder is then we're replacing soybeans and fish meal. Soybeans and fish meal are the environmentally unfriendly part of animal feed. So soybeans take up resources, take up land. Fish meal, we're overfishing the oceans. So we can never replace soybeans, never. But we can replace fish meal in animal feed diets. And the impact of that is quite significant because what most people now know is that, okay, 3 minutes. All right, I'm waffling a bit. All right. So what I decided to focus on in this one was that there's so many aspects of this that we could take from other countries. Like, we have programs being funded in Tanzania by big donors, big governments, and they come in, they buy these vehicles which are archaic, which they stopped using in Europe years ago. So what we're doing now is we use trucks now. So the average skip truck can carry 2 tons. We have trucks now that can carry 20 tons of waste in one trip. Trucks that can move, that can pick up and drop skips. Trucks that are working 24 hours. Trucks that don't stop just to be loaded and offloaded. They have the mechanism to be able to load and offload themselves. And this is what allows us to be able to process a lot of waste. So what I wanted to say was just the revenue streams. So we've managed to get to this point because we've realized that every time we did something, we were losing money. We lost money for ages. And we realized we have to do everything. You have to charge people for waste collection. You have to have a management fee. You have to, we do compost. We do the animal feeds. It's carbon credits, it's destruction fees, it's training, it's consulting. We have to do all these things as a business. If we don't do these things, we will not break even. And then when I say we were profitable the last 3 years, I mean by a whisker. Like, I think in year 1, we were profitable by $500. Year 2 by like 3,000. And year 3 by a little bit more. But the point is, doing all these things, and every year we're adding things. So now with our, through our brands now is where we're making money. So we do this to make animal feed, because animal feed is where you have margin. We make a comparable, affordable product that's as effective as the feeds that use soy and fish meal, that's cheaper than what is actually commercially available. So we're at the low end price-wise, but we are comparable in terms of efficacy. And this is why, I think that the way for this is to do everything. You can't just do one thing, you have to do it all. And I'm going to imagine my time is now up, so 1 minute. I will leave it on that and leave some time because we're all in a rush, but yeah. I'm sorry for going so fast. I apologize. I get excited and then, get carried away. Thank you.
Thank you, Kigen. I think we're all excited about compost and animal feed and black soldier fly. No, but really thank you for sharing your lessons learned, and all the work that you've been doing to really create business models, it seems, to make these facilities and these technologies feasible and sustainable in the long run. Funny story, you were talking about the skips, the trucks that autoload the skips, and how you got them a few years ago, it sounds like. I'm from New York originally, and it was big news earlier this year that New York had finally upgraded to those trucks with the auto-loading skips, and they got pretty dragged in the mainstream media because they just talked about how everywhere in the world had already had these things, and New York was pretending it was some big news, but really they were years and years behind the times. But with that, we'll move on to our third speaker, Andrew Wallace from Chanzi, Tanzania. And Andrew will be speaking about commercial black soldier fly production and their role in organic waste management.
Thank you very much, Casey. Karibuni wote. And I'm going to talk about choosing the best sustainable organic waste management system. And I'm going to give you an example of what we've done. Quick show of hands, who knows what this is? You should do if you've been listening to the last 10 minutes. Similar to what Kigen's been talking about, this is a black soldier fly. Chanzi are initially a black soldier fly company, and basically you take low-grade food waste and convert it into animal feed protein using insects. You get a byproduct, which is what comes out the rear end of the insect, and that you can use as a biofertilizer, an alternative to synthetic fertilizers. It's a simple model. It's a great model. You're taking something that's not worth anything, that's a public nuisance, that is an emitter of methane, and you're converting it into something that is very valuable, insect protein. And here's a comment from Mr. Cargill. As Kigen said, I want to rush through this because he's spoken about it. The insect protein that we produce is an alternative to soya and fish meal, both of which are breaking our food systems. Fish meal, over 80% of fish stocks globally are under stress, critically endangered, and that's heading for disaster. And the fact that 36% of fish that we catch in the wild goes into feeding the animals that we eat means that that problem is not going to get any better until we devise alternative sustainable solutions to fish meal. Soya, we've spoken about. We can produce 2,500 times more protein per acre using insects than we can growing soya, which means a lot less land needs to be cleared to produce protein. The brains behind Chanzi is this man here, Sune Mushendwa. He is an engineer and an architect by profession, and I partnered with him and we created Chanzi. What's a little bit different about Chanzi is that we haven't looked at the models that are being used in Europe. They are heavily over-engineered. They're not applicable for where we are. They focus on climate control. We don't need to do that. We're in a tropical part of the world. They're very automated, robotic arms that we don't need. We've got an abundant labor source. Our model is very much applicable for Africa and economically developing countries. Most importantly, we can produce protein cheaper than fish meal, which means that it is a viable commodity that we can sell. So we've got a great model. We know it's low cost. We know it's locally applicable. We believe it's scalable, so much so that we've rolled out this business across East Africa. We have multiple sites. We've got one in Dar. You're very welcome to come and see it. Arusha, Zanzibar, Nairobi, Nanyuki. And I think, Kigen may want to correct me if I'm wrong, but with current production, I think we're the largest insect protein company in Africa now, which is great news. But as a lot of entrepreneurs, if there are any here, I'm sure you are not content just staying where you're put. You want to scale what you're doing, and that's exactly what we want to do. We want to scale to 40-plus facilities throughout Africa. Is that possible? We have a model that we know works, we know it's profitable, we know it's scalable. However, what is our biggest barrier to scale? We've been speaking about it all week. In fact, it's the title of this, it's waste. How do we get the volumes of waste that we need to feed our insects? More importantly, how do we get it separated? What we know about this part of the world is only 4% of waste is recycled, the rest of it ends up here. And that's obviously a huge problem, it emits greenhouse gases. I don't need to talk to you about waste, but how do we get that divided? We tried multiple different strategies. We tried working with household separation projects. We tried working with independent waste aggregators, schools, businesses, hotels. It worked at a small scale, but it simply wasn't viable and scalable at a large scale. We're talking wanting 36 to 40 tons minimum organic food waste per day. And sorry, all the methods that we tried to divide waste at source, it simply didn't work. Where we found the solution was when we opened up our site in Kenya. Takataka Solutions are the largest waste management and recycling business in Kenya, and they had a huge amount of organic waste. Now, they approached us because they were desperate to actually close their compost facility, and they wanted a destination for that organic waste. What you see here is we've located across the road from them, and we are probably the only country where you can dump 20 tons of rotting organic waste on our doorstep, and we say, thank you very much, same time tomorrow, please. So this partnership seems to work. You've got the waste management company on the left, and you've got Chanzi on the right. Together, we provide a holistic solution to municipal waste. As you can see here, 5% of waste, unfortunately, we're not able to process, but 95% we are. If you remember the statistic I told you earlier, 4% of waste is recycled. Well, we flip that on its head. Through collaborating with a waste management company, we're able to do that, which is fantastic news, and we're talking serious volumes. We're talking over 100 tons of waste a day just passing through this facility alone. Moving back to Tanzania, well, unfortunately, Takataka Solutions didn't exist. We looked in the market, there wasn't a waste management company that we found that was able to separate waste, so we created our own. We created a Kota Waste Management, and we basically reproduced that partnership that we had in Kenya in Tanzania. This is in Arusha. It only opened in March. We're already processing about 35 tons of waste a day. By the end of the year, we're thinking we'd get to about 180. Again, our model is very scalable. Simple. Kota manages the inorganics, Chanzi manages the organics. Together, we have a holistic solution to all municipal solid waste, and that's something that we believe is a model we can replicate in other cities. Again, breaking it down for you here, waste in, we extract as much value as possible, and less than 10% ends up going to landfill. I'm sorry, the title of this meeting is Zero Waste. It would be nice to actually get to zero, and I promise you that is my mission. At the moment, if anyone has a destination for diapers, nappies, and fake hair, please get in touch, because that tends to be what hogs up that remaining 10% that I'm having to send to landfill. So we have a model that we believe is scalable and replicable around the continent, and when we look at our final slide, well, yes, it is a model that we want to roll out across Africa. I had someone approach me today from a city called Tanga. He says, we've got a waste problem. Can you come and solve it? Mr. Kizito, the answer is yes, we can. Allocate us land near your landfill and we'll solve your waste problem. And that's a model that I'd like to present at a city level. So thank you very much. There are numerous other benefits to this, but in terms of what this conference is about, zero waste, we personally believe that this is a fantastic solution to municipal solid waste on a large commercial, profitable scale. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew. That was really great to hear, again, about adapting these solutions to the local context in Africa, and then figuring out how to scale them up for more impact.
Y fuimos el primer país en reconocer los derechos de la naturaleza. ¿Y eso realmente qué significa? Y significa que nosotros como humanos tenemos que construir una nueva ética para poder relacionarnos de una forma más armónica con nuestro medio. La Alianza Basura Cero acoge estos principios y además los potencia en el sentido de que nosotros vemos a los residuos como un bien común que no pueden ser privatizados y que además les corresponden a los recicladores. Ese dibujo de ahí demuestra además cómo a través de los derechos de la naturaleza no podemos hablar de conservación ni de soluciones ambientales sin tomar en cuenta lo social. Estamos todos en este planeta y todos tenemos que ser parte de la solución. El sector de los residuos en mi país es bastante desastroso y la mayoría de los sitios de disposición final de los gobiernos locales son rellenos sanitarios que funcionan a la final como botaderos a cielo abierto. Este año nosotros hicimos un diagnóstico de las emisiones de metano, hicimos un diagnóstico teórico Y como pueden ver en ese mapa, tenemos emisiones de metano en todo el país, pero lo que nos llama más la atención es que las ciudades más grandes son las mayores productoras y solo entre Quito y Guayaquil, que son las ciudades más grandes, se produce el 40% de las emisiones. Esta es un poco la caracterización de la basura en Ecuador. El 58% corresponde a orgánicos, el 41% a inorgánicos. Y vemos que en la mayoría de gobiernos locales el mayor reto es el tema del transporte. Es muy costoso o muy deficiente, no se completan nunca, digamos, todos los territorios, y también el mantenimiento de los sitios de disposición final. Desde la permacultura nosotros decimos, el problema es la solución. Y ahí es donde yo hago un clic muy especial y grande con el tema de los desechos orgánicos. En la Alianza Basura Cero hemos formado la red de compostaje del Ecuador, donde estamos 12 organizaciones que hacemos compostaje a todas las escalas de la jerarquización de los orgánicos, es decir, que hacemos educación ambiental, recuperación de alimentos, compostaje domiciliario, compostaje a pequeña y a mediana escala. Y estos son algunos de nuestros resultados. El compostaje domiciliario, si nosotros tenemos... un momento, por favor. Si pensamos en una familia de 4, esta familia puede compostar al año 416 kilos de residuos orgánicos. Y eso representa 0.6 toneladas de CO2 equivalente. Y puede sonar poco, pero hicimos una muestra y en mi ciudad, que tiene 2.8 millones de habitantes, actualmente calculamos que habría 137,000 personas que estarían dispuestas a compostar en casa. Y eso equivaldría a 22,644 toneladas de CO2 equivalente. El compostaje domiciliario, además, yo pienso que es una herramienta súper importante para aprender a separar bien la basura, pero también para hablar de soberanía alimentaria. Esa foto que ustedes ven ahí es un huerto de 100 metros cuadrados que produce toda esa variedad de tomates. Esa foto que está ahí solo son tomates, 15 kilos a la semana. Escuelas que compostan, para mí es uno de los proyectos más bonitos. Hicimos el cálculo y una escuela de 600 personas puede compostar 2,445 kilos de residuos orgánicos, lo que equivaldría a 3.88 toneladas de CO2 equivalente. Sin embargo, aquí también tengo que decir que el compostaje funciona como una herramienta pedagógica. Los chicos pueden aprender matemáticas, biología, ciclo de carbono, ciclo de nitrógeno, y creo que no hay nada más especial que ver a un chico ver por primera vez a los microorganismos del compost utilizando un microscopio. Actualmente estamos trabajando en 8 escuelas en el Chocó andino, un lugar bien especial por su alta diversidad, pero que además es un espacio libre de minería, y ojalá algún día también pueda ser un espacio zero waste. Comunidades que compostan también es algo que hemos logrado con compañeros de la Alianza Basura Cero. Tenemos 2 modelos. El primero que ven ahí es una compostera mixta, es decir, que hay gente que paga por la recolección del servicio, donde además se utilizan bicicletas eléctricas, y también hay otra parte del vecindario que utiliza la compostera para compostar ellos mismos. Tenemos 27 familias que están utilizándola y eso representa 6.8 toneladas de desechos orgánicos evitados en un relleno sanitario. Por otro lado, tenemos la compostera de la Floresta, que es una compostera ocupa. No se pidió permiso para utilizar esta compostera, solo se la hizo en la calle. Actualmente la utilizan 20 familias, lo que corresponde a 6.25 toneladas. También tenemos ejemplos de compostaje descentralizado. 5 organizaciones empezaron esta iniciativa en la pandemia, porque en la pandemia todo el sistema de basura colapsó, no había recolección. Y actualmente hay 1.000 familias beneficiadas, lo que corresponde a 1.300.256 toneladas de CO2 evitado. Así que vemos que también hay gran potencial en estas ideas. Esto es un mapeo también que hemos hecho de otros sistemas que están haciendo recuperación de orgánicos, que incluye también lo que son municipios y recuperación de alimentos para dar a los animales. Y vemos que las cifras también son bastante buenas. Vemos que en el Ecuador el compostaje descentralizado es una opción importante. ¿Cuáles son nuestros retos? Tener sostenibilidad en los recursos de carbono. Ustedes saben que el compostaje necesita el material rico en carbono para ser bien hecho. Tenemos también todo un reto en el tema de microplásticos. En mi país no se separa la basura. Entonces, inclusive cuando la gente se emociona por hacer compostaje, la separación del plástico a veces es deficiente. Y ustedes saben que un compostaje con microplástico es un compostaje que no sirve. Así que eso es un gran reto. También es un gran reto poder involucrar a los recicladores de base. Eso es una tarea pendiente y urgente, porque a la final ellos tienen muchas ganas de aprender y lo que falta ahí es un poco la disposición de espacios. Y el otro tema es el financiamiento. Actualmente estamos empezando a tener conexiones a niveles municipales. Hay municipios que nos llaman y que quieren aprender de estos sistemas y estamos en eso. Y por último quería dejarles con esta imagen porque, bueno, para mí el compost no es simplemente un tema de residuos, no es una solución solo para residuos, es un tema para cambiar realmente cómo nos vemos a nosotros mismos. El compostaje es literalmente lo que nosotros comemos, porque las mismas bacterias, los mismos microorganismos que están en el compost están en nosotros mismos. Es una herramienta para pensar en soberanía alimentaria. Esa foto que ven ahí es una muestra de solo frijoles. Y creo que lo más importante es que es una herramienta para imaginarnos otros futuros posibles. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Alicia. That was a fantastic presentation. It was great to learn about all of the different scales at which we can compost and the emissions that we can reduce from that. I've actually been to the AgroVivas facility in Quito, and it is amazing what these people are doing in essentially their garden or backyard, processing up almost 1,000 households worth of waste there. So our final speaker today, we have Farima Tijani from Adansonia Green, Senegal. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. So please welcome Farima.
I was in Tanzania before, and I went to Bonyokwa, and they taught that to me. So. So thank you, everyone. Oh, I must speak here. Thank you, everyone. I love composting, and I wanted to work on composting for a long time. And when I finally was able to do it with Adansonia Green, I am in the phase of participating research. And when I do this participating research in Senegal, I realized that actually some people in Senegal don't believe that I can compost in their area because they are doing other stuff. So I wanted to present all this other stuff that we can do with the food waste. There is another example in Canada, which is called Le Fief Gaulois. So Le Fief Gaulois, what do they do? 50% of what they give to their animals is from the waste recovery from local business. So they go to local business and they go to brewery and they took all the grains that they are not using. they take all the spoiled fruits and vegetables and all the bread that is not sold, and this is what they give to all their animals. And they can go up to 50% to feed all their animals. So it's not only at a domestic level, but even in the farm, we can find a way to save food and not put it to waste. For biogas, I also wanted to give an example in Senegal, but I said that I will give I will give a credit to other countries. So there is a biogas facility in Langkat in the north of Sumatra. I think it's one of the biggest one in Asia. And so biogas, I think that we already talked about it, is about anaerobic digestion of organic matter. And actually in Senegal, when I'm trying to do some projects on composting, a lot of people who are working on biogas are telling me that I'm wasting the energy because I'm not using all the energy that organics can, organic matter can produce. I'm not 100% okay with that because I think that biogas needs a lot of money to be able to have the structure, and composting is very easy, so I love composting. But I will present you biogas that can produce gas that can be used in countries specifically like in Senegal. In this country, they will use it for fuel for 400 buses, city buses, and they also have as bioproduct 100 tons of high-quality organic compost every day. So it's true that it can be interesting, but you have to have the budget for that. And we have many others examples of people who are doing some projects on organic material before bringing them to waste. So for example, there is one example of using banana and plantain fibers to do some hygienic, I don't know the name in English, oh my God. Hygienic pads, thank you. To do some hygienic pads, and I thought that it was super interesting. Also, there is one company called Paperwise who is using all the rest of the cultures to do some paper instead of cutting new trees to do some papers. And the last one, I found it very funny. I saw it on TV one day. It's someone that is using the rest of the banana stem to do some artificial hair. Before being zero waste, I was using a lot of artificial hair. It was super nice. And I stopped because now I'm zero waste and I cannot use plastic hair anymore. But now, maybe with them, I can use plastic hair anymore. Plastic hair again, I don't know. So, because on the template of the presentation, I had to put a quote. I put a quote. So the quote is, "Waste exists only in the mind of humans. Let us be guided by nature's wisdom to reintegrate them into virtuous circle." So I love composting, but there are other ways to do with organic matter. Here are the other ways, and thank you for your patience. Thank you for listening to me, even if you heard everything before. And if you want to get in touch, you can contact me. The last instruction was to do the ulululu, but you did it before, so thank you.
So I think that Farima definitely has the compost fever. No, but thank you for sharing your love of compost as well as all of your examples of ways that we can reduce waste before it needs to be composted. A really important point that we've been talking about this past 2 days. So before we wrap up, how much time do we have? 10 minutes? We have about 10 minutes. So I would like to hear from all of you. If folks would like to share one myth that they've heard regarding organic waste management, we thought that it would be fun to share those with the group. Raise your hands, get excited. Yeah, Farima, please.
If I do compost at home, I will have a lot of rats and other insects in my house.
Yeah, that's a really great example. We have tons of rats in DC. I wish they would compost our waste. Should get rid of them. Do others have myths they'd like to share with the group? Anybody on stage? Don't be shy. Thank you, Macarena.
One myth I've heard a lot is that compost smells bad.
Mm-hmm.
Here we think that it's a myth, in our opinion, that you cannot compost the citric peels,
Okay.
like lemons, oranges, and so on. You can compost it.
Yep. Absolutely. We've got somebody and a couple in the back as well.
To do composting in a large and big area.
Some hands in the back.
And one more is that the nutritional content in manure is less than the one that is found in synthetic fertilizers.
I have no idea where you are, but yes.
We do composting on Jumba Island in Tanzania for 20 years, and we have a challenge with the Indian house grow. It's very much attracted by compost. You have to really protect your compost from this bird, which is Guguru, you have seen it outside, which is the rats of the air. They do come, you have to control them. You have to shoot them.
It took a turn. Other myths that folks would like to share, or pest control ideas? Yep, please.
Paraphrasing Shibu from yesterday, some people see that separation of waste is difficult. Let's not mix it up first of all, right?
Yep, absolutely. Anyone else want to share a myth or a thought? Okay. Well, in that case, another big round of applause for all of our panelists up here. Thank you all so much for joining us.